My bad point is this, and it's going to be a little bit subtle because people are probably going to think like, that's a bit of a bold way to say it. But spoiler, I know this person, I have inside information you don't. Essentially, even though there's been no big fanfare, there hasn't been a big announcement, no one's retired or anything, if you just look at the lay of the land in casting right now, Semmler effectively has been forced out of CSGO and probably won't be returning at this point in time. Blast was one of the last tournaments he did. He did a little bit of WePlay, but seems he got replaced on that or didn't get the gig again last year. There is no Flashpoint anymore. I mean, what's left? He didn't work with ESL anyway. I guess in theory he could have done the major. I'll leave him to comment on that himself. No one knows technically who is working the major. So basically, as far as I can tell, this might just be the end of Semmler, the commentator, the broadcast personality. He can do other things in the community, of course. He can come on talk shows. He can still do other things. But I get the vibe that this is the end. And the reason why, for me, that's bad is I still thought he was good at the end. I wouldn't say he was the best. By the way, I always kept it real with Semmler. I never told Semmler to his face he was the best. I even told him, look, you're my mate, but I actually think Sadik is better. Like, it's not about personality here, mate. It's about who's the best at the job. So, but I did think, especially his duo with Anders, they were one of the best of all time. They had a very unique personality pairing. They were obviously fabulous at what they did. They were super. The way they bounced off each other was great. And I still thought he had a place within the community. I still thought he was a classic pairing. I enjoyed hearing, I never really got why people like Reddit was, aside from the obvious nutters, why they went so hard at the idea he sucked. Like, I get the idea he might not like him, but like they made it sound like he couldn't even do his job, as he was like a 3 out of 10 or something. Like, worst case scenario, he was a 7 out of 10, you cunts. Come on, like, he was doing his fucking job. You just might have liked something else. So to me, I just think it's a bit of a sad way to go out, because like I say, he's not going out with a fight. He's not getting the Kobe retirement tour. He's not getting, no one even from the major knew he'd probably be out, so no one even really get, if anything, the major's just going to be remembered as all the cunts going, remember that time Semmler ruined the whole playoffs by casting it all himself? Like, so like, what a whack way to go out. What a whack way to go out, guys.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I think it's a shame that, because I think a personality like Semmler definitely deserves a better send-off. If that indeed is the case, I think they're, without a doubt, him and Anders, right, in the early years and everything, like, they were the go-to pair. They delivered so many great moments for everyone, right, for the fans. But I also think on the other side of things, like, times have just evolved in a sense where it's really hard for a duo who doesn't have, like, a clear color commentator in a sense, right, to kind of be as, I don't want to say as entertaining, or right, but maybe as appealing to people. And that seemed to have always been kind of Anders and Semmler. They were always both, a little bit of both, right?
Yes.
It's almost like they took turns, even within a best of 3 or, between tournaments, like, okay, I'm going to do hype more, I'm going to talk more about the game, right? And then I think the problem for Semmler was when he had some time away doing Overwatch and stuff and came back, right? Obviously, you're going to be a little bit behind the meta and some of the stuff, right? And like, I don't know, I haven't paid too much attention, but whether he tried to do it the same way, but just didn't really have the knowledge yet until he caught up, that people were like so mad about. I think especially when it comes to Arena Counter-Strike, he was still bringing like the hype. There were still like great moments. It was awesome to hear, right? So I think he could, without a problem, still cast in CS and probably get to cast some good games, big tournaments, if he had like a color commentator, someone more analytical, and he could solely focus on the hype and not have to dabble with, trying to break shit down. And, Counter-Strike is also fucking way more next level and way more complicated and way more detailed than it was 5 years ago. I mean,
sure.
It's just heaven and earth at that point. So I think that's just kind of how things unfolded in a way, right? So...
Yeah, I'll pick up on the fact that I think Semmler has a lot left to give in terms of commentary, because I think that his play-by-play, he could still do excellent play-by-play in my eyes. It's just kind of the way that Anders and Semmler were occupying a similar role, where like neither would like hard commit to the color side of things, like made it so they were almost stepping on each other's toes sometimes in commentary. That's kind of just how I would put it. It was never unenjoyable. I always like listening to them when I know they're going to cast a game. I feel like there's going to be a couple moments where I'm going to just find myself smiling, because they did have years and years of chemistry that like always came out, even when sometimes they didn't even necessarily see eye to eye in whatever they were talking about. Sometimes it would just still be a nice friendly back and forth. And I'll say this for Semmler's role though in broadcast talent, I think that he like Yanko said, if he got a color, he could still bring a lot more. But I also think that Semmler, I don't know if he knows this, but I think the host role would just do him a lot of favors. I think Semmler would be an excellent host. I think the way that he does it for, the Pop Flash podcast that you do with him, Thorin, and that I was on a couple times, and I think that is like a role that suits him very well. When he hosted a couple times at Flashpoint, and I always felt like he just knew the storylines very well, was able to bring the best out of everybody because he knows what needs to be out there. And what's great about Semmler is that some people that get into this space, I feel like, or maybe are like maybe a little greener in the space, don't really know what needs to be done in terms of making the broadcast the best that it can be, or putting like the best possible product out there for the listener, for the audience. And I think Semmler always knows what the key points are. He knows the storylines. He knows everything that he doesn't know the fine minutia of the game necessarily, but as a host, you don't need to do that. And I think that what he's good at is extracting that sort of information when someone's around him that can do that.
It's also really eloquent, right?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, he's very eloquent too.
I'm gonna add, that's also one of his strengths, so it definitely goes into the hosting role.
No, what I'd even say is, that's actually a detail I hadn't thought about myself when we started doing that show, the Pop Slash one you're talking about, Mouse Snake. Because basically the premise of it was, it's like me and Richard, but then because there's certainly the one that pays to do it. It's essentially like the people from By the Numbers, but then with Semmler, but then Semmler's the host. You would think that dynamic would work terribly because obviously we've done 1 billion episodes of just me and Richard, right? It does actually give a totally different dynamic to the show, if you notice. And I've noticed similarly, because essentially he knows when not to interrupt us if we're just on a funny rant or something. Actually, I've noticed that's a very positive response to that show, dude. I was thinking people would think it was just filler or something, but a lot of people seem to like it as its own distinct entity. So I actually think he's doing a pretty good job as a host in that sense. And if people don't know, this is maybe the road that could have gone that didn't go down. If people remember, another thing that was ruined by online Counter-Strike coming along, everyone forgets this. When Blast announced at the beginning of 2020 their talent team, the analyst desk was Semmler as the host and me and Chad were the analysts. People forget this. Yanko was still coaching back then. Moses was, actually Moses I think was just a commentator with Anders still at the time. At the time, that was like the bold direction they were going. And basically they were trying to make like a totally new type of desk because the idea was we obviously knew Semmler really well. We'd get like a chemistry down and stuff. The problem is we only got to do like 3 weeks of it, 2 weeks technically because we had shocks for that 1 week. And then it was over and then we obviously Chad, I think, only did the Blast at the end of last year and he was off with the ESL the whole time. I didn't work a Blast after that due to the shenanigans with ye old device when he was still cocked like a motherfucker. I can say that I even know the guy. You know you were fucking cooked, motherfucker. You're not anymore, so fucking just chill out. All right, we got you out in the Bane pit, mate. You're all right now, so don't worry about it. So all I'm going to say is, yeah, obviously I won't be working with him in that scenario. So sadly, I think that maybe even could have been an alternate route. So what I'm saying, Mary Snake, is that's what they took from us. That's what they took from us.
And also, I mean, it can't be underestimated. Like Semmler's done E-League alongside other things.
Everything,
he's been a broadcaster for like almost 10 years now, right? Like that's something that people, maybe don't notice as much. Like there's a lot of guys out there who know the game, right? Especially, ex-pros and whatnot. But, there's also a benefit from fucking doing the job for years and knowing, like, what actually your role is and how to deliver the best possible product and whatnot. And that's why I don't think he's going to be as easily replaced. Arguably some of the, people are also maybe a little bit overrated or coming in, right?
Sure.
In one way or another. But I think Counter-Strike, without a doubt, has always been blessed, with great talent, right? And things are, changing, so some things are changing in that sense, have been for a couple of years now. But I think we'll still be fine. There's still enough people who are really good at it, that, we can still have good fucking content.
Here's the sad thing, mate. On the one hand, I obviously genuinely don't hope any event ever has tech problems or any issues and that. I just hope the event goes well and we all get a great. But I will say, there is a part of me, Yanko, low key, hopes that all the people that every fan on Reddit asked for to be hired for the major get hired for this major. And I hope that first fucking week's just like the one we had in Romania, mate. So I'm telling you what, here's the thing, mate. When certain of us aren't there, you're going to see some of those hosts and analysts start looking around is this thing still on? I have to talk for 10 more minutes.
Well, the problem with that isn't as much that necessarily that particular person isn't as good as an actor.
No, of course
perhaps
not.
you are. Is the fact that the chemistry is not there. Even though I haven't worked with you and Richard for ages, we always had really good chemistry on the desk. So I can come and do a segment with you guys anytime. We can talk for an hour. We're not going to run out of things to say. It was the same with Chad and Alex, which is also why I was looking forward. That's why I was coaching, let's leave that behind for now. I'm gonna do the desk again. Like, it was a lot of fun, and then I didn't even know they were gonna like start casting, right? So then it's like, you know, with a revolving door of the second analyst, right, and a host as well, and, you know, people who are less experienced, is like, you know, it's not as fun. It's more difficult. Like, you have to like carry everything all the time, right? Talk all the time. Because I didn't feel like working for a lot of the time. I was, whether it was Chad and Alex or you, me, and a host on the desk, right? We were just like fucking talking like we are here, slightly more careful about the language, no skull fucking there. But but yeah, you know, like that's why it was so much fun. And that's something that you have to build with time, right? And kind of create that sort of a chemistry, and then you can deliver a much better product.
Yeah, I think that Semmler is probably, because of what happened to him on Twitter at the end of last year, like, I'm not even going to get into the details about it. I think if you want to see a more well-rounded side of him, for anybody listening, like, go to Semmler's own channel, watch when he talked to the two women pros.
Vilga, and I forget who the other one was.
It was Goose Breeder and
Vilga.
Yeah, Vilga, the female.
Vilga, yeah.
The Russian one. Yeah.
Like that was a pretty enlightening conversation. People had the floor for long stretches of time. Semmler was good at facilitating conversation, where he steered it to where he wanted it to go, or like to impose like his own ideas and beliefs into it, but he wasn't commanding respect from them or like saying they have to adhere to his beliefs by any means. And I think that because that just kind of showed to me what every time I've experienced Semmler in person, where even if we don't align eye to eye, it still can be a very respectful conversation that is able to bring out both sides, and we're able to kind of meet in the middle a little bit on our ideas. Like those kind of characteristics are not something I get from everybody else in this space, and it's something that goes such a long way for any host. So,
want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.